Bethune-Cookman has a new coach, man. Shout out to Ed Reed, former NFL All-Pro guy and a Hall of Famer. Some may say he's the best free safety in the history of the league, but he's definitely one of the greatest. And he's coaching Bethune-Cookman now, man.
Yeah.
And we talked about it nauseous of Deion Sanders and what he did at Jackson State, and then moving on to Colorado. We kind of covered that along the ride. And being that Bethune-Cookman is my alma mater, I'm going to love joining and watching Ed Reed's and covering this ride that he's going to have on his team, because
and Ed's going to like it a lot if you increase your booster contribution.
Ed has
move that 7% up, Bubba.
I know, right? Ed has a tall task ahead of him, man. But Bethune, we're bad. The football team, we're bad. I told you when I went and saw them against Jackson State. I told you before that. I told you they're really bad. They're worse than what Jackson State was when Deion took over. All right, Bethune has had a combined 4 wins in the last 2 seasons, and the one prior to those 2 was not good at all either.
I don't know the answer to this question, but what was Jackson State's record the last season pre-Deion?
They were not the greatest. They had won like 5 games or so,
like a 5-7 type
something like
team
that.
like that. Okay, I got you.
So they were bad, but not the worst. We're the worst team in this conference, and but I will say that it can be done. When I was at school at Bethune, we had it fucking, in my opinion, just a great coach in Brian Jenkins. Jenkins then took over a really bad Bethune-Cookman team and immediately turned those guys around. He won, 4 conference championships. His first year, he went 10-2. His first year, he went 10-2, 7-1 in the conference. He wasn't afraid. He was scheduling the Miami Hurricanes. He was scheduling, the FIUs, all of these guys right out of the gate every year, and was competitive. We played Miami Hurricanes, and Miami Hurricanes were up 14-7 in the fourth quarter. Like, we were competitive, and that's when Miami was much better than they are now. All right, so it can be done. Unfortunately, Brian Jenkins had personal. I don't remember the exact story, but something about you sleeping with the girls who were on that help out with the staff, the football staff, whatever.
Like the recruiting girls?
Not the recruiting girls, but I want to say like the towel girls.
The training staff.
The training staff.
Yeah, team managers and such.
So Ed Reed, stay away from the training staff, because this is not your, this is not the whatever Florida State training staff. Like, these girls are, this is not regular. These girls can go from training staff to working at the strip club that night. They look that good. All right, so stay away.
Ed's first demand upon becoming coaches: I will personally hire the training staff. I will interview all candidates. Clothing optional.
Don't get caught up that way, man.
That's funny. Couple takes on this.
Yeah.
In general, I do think like there is a possibility for a quick transformation in the transfer portal era. And I also think, for the most part, when you're recruiting in like the lower Division I FCS schools or FBS schools, you're looking for the most part at like 2-3 star guys. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of those guys. And if you're shrewd and you pick the right ones and you do a good developmental job, there's a lot to gain quickly in that. You can also do the transfer thing where you can get some guys that can potentially play that were at maybe some Power 5 schools, not getting the play time they want, but now, hey, I get a chance to play for Ed Reed. One of the best safeties in the history of football, kind of like Deion did with his thing. And so the chance for a transformation of the roster quickly is a good thing. And I know we've spent a lot of time talking about Deion and, what he did, whether he left a mission unfulfilled or whatever. The Ed Reed hire hints at what his legacy might be in HBCU football. What it might be is a pathway for guys to get head coaching experience and then potentially move up and through.
Yeah.
And I want to draw a little bit of an analogy. The conference that UCF has been in, that conference has kind of been a little bit of like a coaching hotbed. A lot of guys get head coach jobs there, and they if they do very well, they usually get opportunities at the bigger schools. Now, it's been a mixed bag, but you look at Scott Frost at UCF, went to Nebraska, didn't do well. You look at Josh Heupel, goes to Tennessee, things look pretty good. Mike Norvell, Memphis to FSU, he's getting some traction. You had that guy Tom Herman, former the Urban Meyer guy, was at Houston, and then he went to Texas, flamed out there. But there's this pathway from that conference. Now, Dion may create a pathway through HBCU football for black head coaches that can then move into higher ranks, and that might be his legacy in this era. The Ed Reed hire and his willingness to do this and take on this challenge kind of speaks to that. And we also have to look at it in the context of Ed is a University of Miami guy. He was part of the program. He's an off-field role there. And so for him to take this job at Bethune, he had to feel like, okay, even though I'm alumni and a Hall of Famer here, probably have my name on a building or so, I am better off getting head coaching experience than to maybe transition from off-field to on-field to maybe Mario really sucks and I get the job. And he's looked at this and said, this is a better path for me. And it'll be interesting to see what his dialogue is, what his rhetoric is. Is he going to be strong on the HBU message and sending a message, I want to build, I want to uplift? Or is he going to be more like, this is a great opportunity for me, and I'm going to coach my ass off. And if I get, like kind of what Dion, I mean, essentially, if I get a better opportunity in 2 or 3 years to coach, I'm going to do that. But it is interesting. I mean, Ed Reed is a respected NFL guy, a Hall of Famer. He was in the UM program where he was an alumni. It's hard to imagine that if he didn't want it, he couldn't get some coaching in the NFL on Harbaugh's staff, potentially with the Ravens. But this is the path he's choosing, and it's interesting to see.
It's very interesting listening to you talk, because is that really good for HBCU football? If that is the pathway, because that's a logical standpoint or viewpoint to have.
Yeah.
But is that good for us? Because I'm not sure about that. I think you want it, like for example, today they talked about this on National Airways, on ESPN, on Fox Sports. First time I've ever heard Bethune Cookman being mentioned on,
right.
on those platforms, right? And that is awesome. That is great. I'm sure a school like Bethune, who has really have had financial issues in the past, 5 to 8 years. We've ran through presidents and things of that nature. So having a spotlight and generating more dollars through the football program for whatever, if it's a year or two, I'm sure that is a plus. But it's the, what happens after. If you go right back to the doldrums after, was that really worth it?
Well, and here's where I think that, like, you have to embrace your reality. And if you look at yourself and realize, hey, we have an opportunity to be a launching pad for coaches. And as long as we're hitting that coach hire every 2 to 5 years, we're good. And the resources and the energy needs to be finding, like, let's say Ed Reed's successful and it's year 3 and he's going to move on. We got to nail the next hire. And we got to nail a guy who we think is going to be better than us, really. We don't necessarily, I mean, the decision is this. Do you want to hire a coach for 15 years or 20 years to be your guy? Or do you want to hire the best possible guy, recognizing that you're going to be part of that ascendancy? And he won't be there forever, but he's going to give you 2, 3, 4 years, and then your challenge is, let me find the next one of those guys, rather than some guy that's mediocre or whatever, slightly above average, but hell, he's going to stay here for 12 years. And I look at it like, why not? I mean, what's the highest level of sport? The NFL, the NBA. How many long-term coaches do you have there?
A couple.
Very few, though.
Yeah.
Very few.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, hey, we got to get a coach. He's going to be, hopefully he's good for this group of players. And, you know, and then we kind of know, just history tells us, message is going to go flat. We may need to make a change. And
that's the culture shift. That's the culture shift because HBCUs, we're used to, those 15, 20, 25-year coaches. That's what we're used to. And if that doesn't happen, there's something seriously wrong. Like the team was, very, very bad, or there was a scandal.
Right.
Those are the only. Yeah.
But like again, flip your mindset on that.
No, that's true.
And I look again, and I think UCF locally is. I mean, they got lightning in a bottle with Frost. I mean, arguably they got the best 2 years of Frost's life. And then he leaves, and they did a nice hire with Josh Heupel. Josh Heupel was pretty successful at UCF, and then he moves on. And then you go with Gus Malzahn, who's not in that same mold because he's an older guy. And again, I don't know if part of their thinking is, well, let's grab Gus and maybe he'll kind of wind his career down here. But to me, personally, you don't want a motherfucker winding his career down on your dime. You want a dog who's going to go do stuff. And if you lose him in 3 years or 4 years, that's fine.
Do your work and get the next.
I was at FSU, and we had Bowden for 30 years. The last 10 were dog shit. Like, be honest about it. You know, this is an old senior citizen without the energy, without the passion. Things are kind of on cruise control. He's in this weird thing where he's got longtime assistants. And here's the thing. The good ones moved on because they can, and you're not going to retire, so they're not going to stay around for a job that's not going to be theirs. The assistants that stay are who? The shitty ones, the cronies, the yes men, and your staff, and your fucking son. And those are the guys that your staff. It kills you. It kills you. You cannot be afraid of progress. And if there's a message to me, to Bethune or anybody else in HBCU, go find you the next big thing and get him before he's the big thing. And enjoy that ride. And then focus on finding the next guy. I don't want to overstate this because, I mean, Mike Norvell's doing a nice job. I'm not saying he's perfect, but I remember when he was hired, and he hadn't been head coach for that long, but he already had like a coaching tree of guys that went to coach with him at Memphis and got good jobs going elsewhere. He's kind of continued that. His reputation is he hires really good assistants and he lets them do stuff. And when it's time for them to grow and go, he's okay with it. And he focuses on the next guy. We have a dog, in my opinion, Alex Atkins, our offensive line coach, our offensive coordinator. Unless something happens to Norvell, like Atkins is going to have to leave, probably within the next year or two, because he's going to deserve a head coaching opportunity. Now, if Norvell were to say, hey, I want to go to the NFL or whatever, and I don't know that he does, then to me, you have to hire Alex Atkins right away. But you're going to lose him if Norvell's successful, and you have to be okay with that. But I like the Ed Reed move. And I think some of the HBCUs shift the paradigm, hire big name guys, hire guys on the rise, and be okay when they leave and focus on finding the next one.
Oh, that's true. I like that take, man. We'll see where it goes. As soon as Ed Reed has a press conference, we'll definitely cover that because we do want to hear what's his angle. That'll be very important, and compare it to what Deion's angle was. See if he's going to be heavy HBCU, or see if he's going to be heavy. Hey, this is a great opportunity. Let's see where it goes.
And I would be shocked, honestly. I mean, Ed Reed doesn't have the persona of Deion, but I would be. I mean, if the media members at his press conference don't bring up some of the Deion stuff right away, they're like asleep at the wheel. But you got to, I mean, like, hey, does Deion, what he did, is that inspired you? Is that, like, why are you leaving UM where you played and was a star? Like, was there no opportunity there for you? Like, these are the questions he needs to, you should ask him. And let's see what his answers are.
No, that's true, man.